My guest today is someone who has lived with one foot in the physical world and one foot in, let's call it, the deeper layers of reality. His name is Stih Noack. At the age of 4, Stih was hit and dragged by a drunk driver while riding his big wheel. He had a near-death experience and came back with memories of a love he describes as unmistakably divine. Today, Stih works with energy fields to help people with pain, stress, inflammation. He's trained in Reiki. What he does extends far beyond that. During a session I had with him, we drifted into a conversation that caught my attention as it connects directly to something I've sensed for a long time. Why does the world seem engineered to keep us divided, distracted, and afraid? Why does it feel like something benefits when humans forget who they are? When I shared this thought with Stih, he said, Archons. And that's where the show begins today.
Let's get real.
Welcome to the Daniel Stih podcast. Stih Noack, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good seeing you.
Before we dive in, I want to frame this for listeners. I'm not here to push a belief system. We're here to explore ideas. Different traditions have different names for the forces that pull us away from remembering who we are and being clear, getting clarity. Christians might call it Satan. Buddhists talk about Mara. Some people use the word demons. Psychologists might call it ego. Today, I'd like to use the word archons as a metaphor for this. So let's start at the beginning. Take me back to the moment when you were 4 and the accident, the near-death experience, and what stayed with you after that.
Sure. So, the near-death experience was pretty wild. Took me a lot of years. I compartmentalized it for a lot of years. Find it really awkward to talk about, but eventually it did come out. So at 4, I was run over by a car. What I remember is a blur as I was leaving the driveway across the street from my house. I was being called to come home. And I went out into the road without looking, of course. And I was hit by a car, struck by a car. I went underneath the car, and the car continued because the woman had been drinking a little bit and she didn't know she actually hit me. So people had to run out the road and stop her. And I was underneath the vehicle by the time they got there. The only thing that saved me was my plastic big wheel that I was riding because it stopped me from getting run over.
It literally drug you. You were under attached to the car.
Yeah, I was underneath all the way underneath the car, and I was getting dragged basically to the stop sign that was about another 20, 25 feet down the road.
You're laying on top of the wheel.
The big wheel went underneath the back tire, and then I was there, and then that's what kept me from going under the tire. And so pretty much the whole side of my body was road rash from getting dragged along. I broke ribs, collapsed lungs, broke shoulder blade, collarbone. There's a few other things. They had to resuscitate me once. And so what I remember is just a blur. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at myself and I see my eyes roll in the back of my head. And then everything fades to black, like the end of a movie. But then it opens again. And I'm sitting with someone, or who I think is someone, and I can feel them, or what I think is feeling, and I'm leaning on them. I kind of got my head on their chest a bit, and sort of in a downward position, like you would cradle a child or whatever. And when I open my eyes, I see hair that's almost touching the ground, and it's silvery white, almost luminescent. And then I see the bottom of a robe, and no feet or anything, just robe, hair. And my first instinct, I suppose, is to ask what happened. And so when I went to turn and asked this, who I thought was a person, what happened, it wasn't a person at all. It was a hooded figure of light. And this person, or this being, had no face. They only had light where their face should be. And so this stopped me for a moment, but I still said, what happened? And they said, Stephen, you were in an accident. Put your head down. Everything's going to be fine. And so as I did that, I put my head down and I'm staring at this being's face now, kind of enamored, I suppose. And I remember just having a quick thought of like, how did I talk without moving my lips? And slowly, the more I'm staring at this being's face, I'm getting pulled. And it feels like I'm still there, but I'm getting stretched like an elastic. And I'm now going down into this light. And it feels like I travel for a little bit. And then I stop and the scene materializes in front of me. And it's a heavenly scene. There's the most perfect meadows, flowers, rivers, mountains, trees. There's paths. And I noticed the flowers are like alive. They're like vibrating. And I understood that they were their own beings. And there were colors there that I still haven't seen today, flowers that are, I've still never seen the magnificent,
And you said this experience bioelectrically connected you to the quantum field before you came back. Did they tell you that while you were there, or then you just get resuscitated and come back and somehow you're still connected?
I wish they told me that. Then I might have known what was happening later. So I noticed people and figures, and they're playing and whatnot. And I'm getting the vibe. This is the greatest carnival that I've ever experienced, and I want to be a part of it. And that's what it feels like. It feels like you went to the carnival with your family, and you're just having the best time of your life. And I noticed these two figures, particularly off to my left, and it's an elderly man and a little girl, and they're playing, and the little girl lets out a laugh, and it comes through the air and hits me right in the center, and it's something spread out in me, and instantly I knew everything was one, that I was home, that I wanted to stay here, and that anything that came here had to be love. It was an instant knowing of pain could not exist there, hate, suffering. And it wasn't that it didn't. I knew that it couldn't. It couldn't form function. And so I felt that frequency and I wanted to stay. And that's when the being says, well, it's not your time. We still have other things to show you. And it was like...
And then you came back.
Nope.
Oh, okay. They showed you some more first.
Yeah. And so it was like someone had painted that scene on a canvas and then someone just pulled it away. It was like a curtain almost. So they pulled it away. And then now I'm standing in what looks like a room that's dark, but it's like dimly lit. It's like a night sky without stars in a way. And the first thing I notice is these lines that begin to form, and they're going straight down and straight across. And they look like a grid pattern, like a waffle. And they're lit like in that bluish white light. And I think that's all I have to do is think, what is this? And then I get the answer. And they say, this is the quantum field. This connects all living beings together as one.
It's like the super AI.
Yeah. And that fades. And the next thing I notice is this pillar of light that comes down in front of me. And naturally, what's that? All I have to do is think it. And then the voice responds, this is you as you enter the world as pure love. And you're going to spend your energy to have an experience with material reality. And when they said that, spend your energy, I see like a cord go out and deposit in this screen that I'm now noticing that's like almost all the way around me. And I'm looking to see if I can make out what's at the end of that cord. And it looks like a tiny TV set with like images in it, which I assume later were memories. And so as I see that, the being says, this is like a life review, but you won't have yours now. You're going to have yours while you're alive, and people don't need to die to go through a life review and ascension. And that was the first time I had heard the word ascension. I didn't know what it meant. No religion, by the way. My parents never brought me to church. And so they tell me my life review is going to come later in my life while I'm alive. And now that I'm in the multidimensional realm, I kind of understand how it happened. And I'll get into that in a bit. But that's
I want to get to the archons.
sure.
So during our session, when I described the sense that some invisible force benefits from human fear and keeping us divided, politics, war, whatever,
Yeah.
you we came about somehow. You said the archons. What are the archons?
To me, they are extraterrestrial in nature. They don't exist in our dimension, but I see them as multidimensional hackers. And this was information that was given to me later, once these beings returned and started speaking to me again in 2008. And so the rest of the NDE was they showed me my divine blueprint. They told everyone has an original image that they were made in to reset themselves, basically, from this experience, that this was the promise of Christ. And so they're giving me all this stuff. Later, when I wake up, 2008, so I hit a lot of that, and I went through accidents and pain and a lot of stuff that really made me question, if there was a God, he probably doesn't like me. And, I had this experience when I was young and all this pain and accidents. So 2008, these beings come back to me again during a time when I was really anxious and nervous, and they go, "Stephen, put your head down. Everything's going to be all right." And I just went, "What the?" And that was it. My reality was done. The very first information they were giving me was that humanity is in a war in heaven that is taking place in their hearts, in consciousness, basically for their energy, that they're being harvested like quantum batteries, and that I was to help these people escape that system, and that I was going to help humanity with the evolution of its species and this upgrade that was going to make the vulnerable access points less available to these beings who don't have bodies and want to experience what it's like to be here because it's sacred. So
Historically, the word archons, it shows up in the Gnostic philosophy in the first few centuries after Christianity. What did the Gnostics believe about the archons?
that I don't know. Like I said, I've never studied religion.
Hey, that's in a history book, and you experienced it firsthand. You didn't need to read the history books.
I did. What happened was, when this being came back and spoke to me, so it was like someone flipped a light switch on. I could see, and I could see energy, and I could see all these manifestations of my own or quantum projections of these various roles and personalities I had and trauma. They were all of a sudden, someone's flicked the light switch on, and I could see them all around me. And at first I thought I was being haunted, until they came and visited me again and said, "You're a divine instrument, but you're out of tune. And this is what's being created and projected from the feedback of your misalignment. And it is also what's being hijacked." Their vulnerable access point was the lack of identity given to me already. That allows them to come in.
So speaking of, I'm an engineer. So the mechanics of the influence, if these certain forces feed on low vibrational emotional states, fear, anger, despair, from your perspective, how does it work? What's the mechanics of it?
Yeah. Have you ever rubbed your feet on a carpet and shocked someone?
Yeah.
Bingo. Same thing. Except we're talking about quantum energy, electric and magnetic. So they're harvesting for their own potential so that they can grow in their own being and knowingness of themselves and continue to advance their species, much in the way other species want to advance themselves. In a way, it's not right or wrong. It's simply sustainable or unsustainable. And it's almost like, and I know this for certain, that we logged in to play this experience, that I'm an energy playing a character. And I logged into this video game that was so real, I forgot who I was. And there was a bug in the system that allowed entrance of these other energies to trap us in time. So our emotions, we can experience time differently through different emotions. Time can go fast, it can go slow. What happens is when we have trauma and we don't heal it and we're repeating these feedback loops, they want to keep us there because we are outside of our bodies. So past, outside of my body.
They keep us there because they like the low vibrational.
They like the low vibrational energy, but they also like to be in your body. Yeah, there are people walking around, and we see this in humanity with unspeakable acts. You go, how could a human even do that? It's not a human anymore. They're being hijacked neurally by another energy that they can't control. Now, they may drift in between the alternating current from themselves to this other self. That's an alternating current. When these beings came back and visited me, they were sure to let me know that I needed to reunify the dual currents in my body into a direct current. And that I needed to achieve singularity within my body so that I wasn't trapped in this linear circuit of time.
Well, I'm going to get to the singularity. You mentioned that later on in solutions. First, I wanted to present the problem.
Sure.
Speaking of which, do behaviors such as people watching the news all day, doom scrolling, or chronic stress, you mentioned trauma, does that create an energetic environment that makes them more susceptible to the influence of these archons or those energies, those beings?
Absolutely. It's in the amount of data and content you absorb because you're a lot like a computer. So what I'm going to do is maybe I'm absorbing or creating too many lower vibrations and they're being stored in my body. Now I'm broadcasting something because we're receivers and transmitters. There's life force energy flowing through us. Now I'm holding a pocket of density or lower energy. I might as well ring up the nearest prison and say, hey, you're allowed to come over to my house.
It'd be like if you're a hunter and you grew big antlers. There, there's an 8-point. Or I'm just making this up. I don't hunt things, but something really, I want to eat something that looks good. It could be a piece of pie, came out of the oven or something you just baked. It's attractive to them, is what you're saying.
Yes. And how much of me is making the decision versus how much of my impulse and my urge to repeat? That's where you find them. It's the urge and the impulse to repeat without thought.
Okay. We'll talk about that in the solutions. Take a moment and think. So I'm an engineer. I'm going to tangent a bit out of the metaphysical that you've been speaking of. Help me wrap my head. If you have any ideas for this, whenever I hear a claim us engineers are drawn to, how can I verify it? I'm a skeptic. Can I measure it? Can I design an experiment? For me, even in my case, I'll be like, well, if this is bad for us and hurting us, is there a way as an engineer I could measure it, detect it, and then maybe even test how could I influence it instead of it influencing me? Yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely going to be seen in the conscious and subconscious link. It's going to be seen in your field, your unified 0-point field, positive and negative being one. I'm no longer in duality. But it's going to be seen mostly in your frequency. Measurable, we're just getting into that. Measurable 0-point energy. They're just building machines. So there are devices that these beings and even higher ups, humans who are aware of it and allow themselves to be used that have to measure our frequency and our state of consciousness. However, is that available to us? Probably not. So I would instantly know by the tone and frequency of someone's energy, by their field touching mine, because we're quantum entangling with people all the time. But am I practicing knowing that world is real, or am I just like, nah, it ain't real?
Well, they both go together. You can see if it's light or dark with your eyeballs. But I also, as an engineer, I have an instrument that can measure looms and intensity and brightness and all those things.
So I've gone to the Rhine Institute for Psychic Research, where they measured the output of photons. They measured, different thresholds. And so there it can probably be seen because you're probably not outputting a lot of light at that point. And so
I was just
measuring,
using it as an example of how science and the metaphysical don't have to be exclusive one or the other. We use it all the time on app on our phone. Instead of counting my steps, I'm going to use my app to count my steps. We split the atom into quarks. We could find a way as where my mind's.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, but the easiest way to translate it is to people's is polarity, and that our polarity goes out of whack from storing our trauma in our body, and then is what gets preyed upon by other beings in the multidimensional realms.
How you feel?
Yeah, it's. Do I carry a negative charge of cellular memory from my experience? If that's a negative emotional charge, yeah, it's real. It can be seen everywhere. However, what can't be seen is the 97% of the invisible light spectrum. I might think, those are just my thoughts. I might think this is my decision, but can I say no to it? Who's making the decision? So I became very curious early on when they gave me the information about the Archons, our quantum energy being harvested like batteries.
What you're saying is your thought might not be your thought. Because
if you don't agree with it, absolutely.
Because nobody even really is clear where your memories are stored. A lot of people say outside the body because you can take a piece of your brain out and you still remember stuff or not.
Well, it's stored in the cellular memory, and they have research papers on this now. But the cellular memory is going to project it through the subconscious mind. And so, again, polarity. That's all it is. It's positive and negative because we have positive and negative in ourselves. However, they became disconnected. Like, whoop. And now there's a feedback loop. When they become reconnected in the torus field of the heart, then the energy begins to flow, and I'm in a grounded state where it's very hard to modulate me. So what's happening is we're being modulated out of our identity. Okay, so there's polarity is definitely detectable when it's out of balance and when it's in balance.
So solutions, remembering who you are. You told me during our previous conversation, the simple solution is not easy. Not easy. Remember who you are. What does it mean to remember who you are?
For me, it meant returning to the original energy I was before I came into the body and the knowing of that. However, I have to be the one to inform my nervous system and body of what we are, because nobody's going to come along and tell me that I am a sovereign being, that I was already whole, that I already was.
Some people's AI, ChatGPT, will tell them that, which is causing some people problems. They think they are God or something like that.
It doesn't mean they believe it. So belief and knowing, very different. I could tell somebody they're whatever. If it never makes it into embodiment, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So I can intellectualize all day what I am. If I don't embody it, it's not going to make a difference. So point being is, if I do not put that information in my subconscious, then my subconscious is being already programmed without my permission. And so am I the programmer or am I not? Am I allowing the environment to program me, or am I programming me? So what I tell clients, the solution to look for is the sensation of truth in the body, because that's the purest grounding. And when, truth is such a weird subject, right? It's the completion of a thought circuit in terms of neuroscience. It's your thought goes all the way down and it finishes. Now, the reason why people can't tell themselves and feel it that I'm loved is because they have those old programs stuffed in their cellular memory, their subconscious, and they haven't released them. So that's blocking this thought circuit. Truth is a self-realized sensation in the body of who we are as sovereign beings. Can I give that to somebody? No. Can I coach them on how to get their energy into that tangible feeling so that they have the awakening? Yeah. I can reprogram a lot of their cellular memory, but then it's going to be up to them to sustain that identity in a very dense place. So
when you say remember who you are, though, mm-hmm. I keep thinking of remembering a memory from childhood, or literally remembering. Is it not quite that literal?
It can be if you need to return to sensations of innocence, which can greatly help your energetic system. So yeah, I I thank my inner child. I see that as a representation of the subconscious mind. I keep an eye on little Steve, make sure he's aligned with my conscious thoughts. But you should want to know yourself as something larger than what you're doing and have done on earth, because that's your ticket out. If I know that I am all of creation, just like I know how to make a cup of coffee, where am I going to be? I'm going to be up here. It's going to be really hard to pull me down using fragmented aspects of myself, because as we're interacting with people, that's what's happening. Fragmented aspects. These archons prey on those fragmented aspects out in the multidimensional landscape that I have not yet claimed, that I have not yet brought into me to say, you are loved, you are whole, you are this. And our inner child needs to hear that to kind of reunify. So when I'm unified, hard to get me out of my body. When I'm not unified and in duality, very easy to pull me out of my body and use my energy. You'll see it in marketing campaigns. You'll see it in government. You'll see it in politics. Anything that wants to modulate your emotions and change how you feel is an attack on your sovereignty. And I consider that just as bad as someone violating my body. If you're coming into my nervous system to try to modulate my identity through my emotions, I already know you're the enemy. Already know it, because I already had my identity.
Yeah, the TV ads are like hypnosis. They're psychologically manipulating you. So you talked about singularity of self. Tell me if I'm saying this right. It's the internal core, the idea that you're unshakable and you know it. As you were saying, you really know it. How does knowing yourself at that level protect someone from the fear, confusion, and the low vibrational influences?
Sure, it shifts your polarity into a state that is, we're reversing the polarity. So if anybody's ever played with magnets, they stick together. If they flip the magnet over, it pushes the other magnet. So when I begin to unify my identity with my divine blueprint, then I have more discernment and more control over what gets downloaded into my system. And that's what's happening. We're allowing things to get downloaded and downloaded and downloaded, and that dysregulates us. So the more I unify myself, meaning the more accountable I am to any pain I ever created on this planet, the more I go to that inner Christ, that inner spirit, to make amends for that and say, hey, I wish I was more aware back then. Forgive me. More I do that, the more I am calling these images back into wholeness. The more whole I am, the more potent I am, the stronger my frequency is. The more spread out I am, I don't have any whole version of myself in my mind to see, then my nervous system spread out and scattered. So it's going to be hard to function.
Give me an example of somebody spread out, a client you've worked with that's just spread out, and then how you brought them back together.
Sure. No, I had this one woman, and we'll just call her Diane. We don't need to mention any names for all purposes. So she came to me. She's been coming to me about 2 years, and she was frazzled in the beginning. I mean, so caught up in the approval and the validation of others. It was creating so much anxiety and fear because her mind was consistently looping, looking for completion through these other people. Now, these other people, they don't have a whole image of you. They can't give you that approval that you need to stop that looping. And so she came to me about 2 years ago. And now I just saw her the other day, and she's really grounded into her body and having that relationship with the energy of creation itself, moment to moment, understanding that everyone else is source too. They're all just actors in this experience for me, not against me. That's the difference between shifting and realigning my polarity, rewiring my nervous system from survival mode into thriving, and balancing conscious and subconscious, as she's now in control of how she interprets and perceives reality, and then interfaces, because we're living in our nervous system first, then I'm interfacing with reality from the data in my nervous system. So you bet your butt I want to be the programmer in the nervous system. So by her consistently using the Trinity routine, because what I saw during my NDE was actually called a triangle singularity, which is an advanced quantum physics theory that I didn't know until much later.
And that'll be in the show notes, your trinityhealing.org, right?
It's trinityquantumhealth.com. Yeah.
You also mentioned becoming unattached. What does healthy detachment look like, and how does that change the energy dynamic we're talking about?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It gives me so much freedom to be me without the guilt or shame of being human. Non-attachment to me means I want to experience being human without any attachment to my identity. So, in other words, the world doesn't get to say what we are. We already had our identity. And so when I practice, I'm the one feeling the feeling, but I'm not the feeling itself. Thank you for what you're teaching me. I'm not only practicing my non-attachment, I'm now able to stop that energy from becoming me, whether it's fear, worry, stress, or anxiety. As soon as I attach to it, it's going to become me. But I'm also now rewiring my neural pathways for my mind and my heart to work together. Because mind, heart, and gut, that's another trinity that are supposed to work together. So by practicing, I'm the one feeling this, but I'm not the feeling itself. I'm the one that travels the emotional scale, but I'm not the emotional scale itself. I can have a lot more options rather than being shrunken down thinking, okay, this is all there is. Because that's what the emotions are going to do when we think we are them, rather than understanding realities passing through us. And I have a choice. So it gives me back my free will. That's really what this is all about. It's getting back our free will from the system that kind of trapped us in the concept of time to harvest our energy.
Unattached. So we're in the digital age. I recently had a conversation with a blockchain technology guru, Roberto Capodici. He's got 40 years of experience in the blockchain, Web3, all this stuff. And one of the most important points he made, I was reading the transcript, he said, the future will belong to those who can maintain a strong self-identity, even in the midst of all these ways we try to pretend to be who we are not. So, from your perspective, how does this strong self-identity fit into the idea if you're going to rise above the fear, the distraction, and being influenced by these? Back to the word archons.
Well, definitely that strong sense of identity is going to give you discernment for anything trying to separate you from your identity. So that comes first. It's my strong sense of knowing who I am. But again, I want to know myself above my name. That's what my parents gave me. Above the things I'm doing, above the roles I'm playing, who I was before I became. I want to know myself as I am the trees, I am the water, I am all these things, because it's going to be very hard to fit me into your box when this becomes a knowing that's felt in my body. Like I ask my clients, do you know how to make coffee? And they're like, yeah. Do you know how to tie your shoes? Yeah. You seem pretty confident. Could I convince you that you couldn't do those things? And they're like, no, I know how to do them. Same knowing, except our identity was interrupted by
What
duality.
comes to mind is the virtual reality glasses, and I don't keep up with it because I'm not a gamer, but the people who are going to put something on their head and their gloves, what is your opinion on that kind of technology? You're spending too much time in it anyhow. It's okay to watch TV for, an hour at night, but some people spend a lot of time in the virtual reality.
Anything that is controlling your need to do it and your emotions, and you have to do it or you don't feel right, that's bondage. It's entrapment. And so whether it's a virtual reality or not, what I will add to that is, as these beings started to visit me and the extraterrestrials, they let me know you're an energy playing a character that logged into the system to do this. And that's when I started to have the memories of standing at a console, logging in down this tunnel as energy, and understanding that, all right, humanity's in a virtual reality experience. However, the sensations were so real, they forgot who they were. because it gave away so much of their energy. And now we're remembering, like, wait a minute, we're not just these bodies. And so anything like virtual reality, video games, whatever it is that, be human, but know your threshold. Know your threshold when you can no longer say no to something.
And
That's the difference.
And it seems like having the piece of cake. Don't eat the piece of cake, play the video game, or go into the virtual reality because you're stressed out. Like people smoke or they eat food because they're stressed. Just go, I see the cake.
Yeah.
I can eat the cake. I feel good. I like cake, but not because you're had a bad day, or it's not to be an escape.
Definitely not in a patternized way, for sure. Because as soon as you start to introduce the pattern of escapism, now you're putting stakes around your identity, and you're going to be hemmed in, and you're going to find it hard to get out of that in your nervous system.
I was just about to say, how do you get out then? How do you not eat the cake, not put on the virtual reality glasses?
You eat it with the knowing of yourself. That way I can experience and understand it's sacred, but it's not who I am. Thank you for that experience. And so when we acknowledge all energy that's sacred and holy and love, they have a hard time sticking around. It's when we're pushing them away.
Oh, it would be like being an alcoholic, but you had a drink anyhow. You fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
But at least you're still acknowledging I'm an alcoholic and I'm going to try again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow's another day. You can try again. The escapism, man, I used to do it myself. I was a store manager at a video game store, ironically, when these beings contacted me, and it was really easy for them to tell me what kind of system I was in based on my prior knowledge. But I would go out into nature, and during that time when I was still, in and out of my body, I would go out into nature and I'd say, I want to be in the trees. I want to be in the water. I want to be in this. Now I go into nature and I know I am the water. I am the trees. And that's the difference between intellectualizing and who I was and using it as an escape and becoming it. So now I know there's nothing that I have to escape from. I'm already free because the labels. So the labels, they're going to attach labels to our identity. But anyway, go ahead.
Why do you suppose nature, it's a recurring theme. I get it because I'm a rock climber for 40 years. It's what I just like to be outside. It's not about adrenaline rush, but it seems more and more people are becoming aware. You see it all the time. Just go for a walk, go outside, get into nature. How does that relate to what you're saying? Why is it nature kind of fixes things?
I believe we have dual poles. We have positive and negative, and that, and I don't want to say negative in like a bad way, but that negative polarity with Mother Earth, and then the positive electric meeting the magnetic. I believe they're one. And I think when we go back into nature, we remember that that's the pace we're supposed to be living at. And the artificial pace is the push from the environment and the constructs of the world. And so, I get pushed into duality and then I come back when I'm in nature and it feels like home. And then I get pushed into duality and then I'm back in myself when I unified, when I'm in nature. And what happened to me was I was just breathing and I would feel this line of energy come up and go down, come up and go down. I'm like, what is that? And I could really feel it. And I didn't know anything at that point. And I heard the voice say, thank it. And I said, thank you. And there was an explosion of love in my belly when those two energies came together. And I was like, whoa, all right, there's another intelligent divine energy that I'm feeling here.
It sounds like better than the virtual reality glasses. You had a good experience out there in the natural world.
Oh my God, it is the virtual reality we're in, man. It's so beautiful here. But what I was getting at real quick was, if you don't have a firm identity, there's so many things that are coming along to label you and push you to the side. Label you, barcode, push you to the side. Have an identity that you can't find a label for.
That's what I tell people about like their job. I am like an engineer or a computer programmer or, a marketing manager or account manager, whatever. I'm like, you are not your label. You're not even the places, the state or the name you're born with. It's not you. It's the name somebody gave you.
That's just the stuff you're doing, dude.
Yeah. So back to the Archons. there's a view out there, and it surprised me that Archons, if we use the term, they themselves are caught in something. They too are disconnected from love. Are the Archons or these forces, whatever you want to call the metaphor, are they malicious or are they just stuck in their own kind of captivity? I think you talked about that earlier. What's your take on that?
My take on that is a dog will be a dog and a cat will be a cat. Now, I can't hate the dog for being a dog. I can't hate a cat for being a cat. And they're just doing what they know to survive. From my understanding and early contact with like the extraterrestrials, they were offered peace and there's some kind of war, going on. And whether it's other realms or physical, I don't know. But this is what they told me long ago, that they were offered peace to join this federation and chose not to. And so they work off world to harvest, because quantum entanglement, you can do it through space and time, doesn't matter. So they work off world and siphon from our planet the quantum energy. Now this system's being upgraded so that they're going to have a real hard time accessing it. But a lot of what we see is the fight from the energy, not so much the archons, but the energy of ourselves that we've been giving them, that doesn't want to, it's our old identities. We want to hang on to what we know because we don't know ourselves above what we've been doing. So they're not bad in essence. Again, only sustainable and unsustainable. However,
they opted out. They don't want to be part of NATO, or
they don't want to be, they don't want to be controlled. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's valid. I don't like to be controlled either. But I'm still not wrapped clear on why they only need the negative energy, not the positive energy. Why is it they only feed off the negative? And could we starve them? Would it be possible to starve the negative forces?
Mm-hmm. Well, they already know. They already have the positive. They already know how to recreate certain energies. And again, positive and negative go together to create 0-point energy, which enables us to be in quantum superposition and travel through time. And so they're harvesting that energy from us, but it doesn't mean they're not creating or getting another energy that goes with it. Again, black and white go together.
Oh, they're only taking our negatives. They're getting the positive from somebody else?
Not from somebody. They have machines. They have technology that we can't even fathom. And this is what I was shown. And literally 2 weeks ago, the Arcturian showed me the machine that I was using to re-encode someone's nervous system with a program to help jailbreak them out of the system. So there's machines in the quantum technology. I've been on the ships like numerous times at various different points in my life. Same ship, same suit, no hair. But there's machines that they're using to do this.
Dude, I get the negative part again. Is it just because humans are easily made to be negative? How come they only using us for the negative stuff, not the happy stuff? Where do they get the happy stuff from if they need to go to singularity?
That I'm not too sure about. But the negative part, if you're still separated from yourself, they can come in your body and have your experience for themselves. That's part of it. So they're not only getting your energy, they're also having part of your experience that they weren't allowed to have.
Oh, well, I was going to say, why would they want to have it? A lot of people are suffering, and are they going to pick the rich people well off to have the to have the experience?
Everything is sacred. Well, suffering is my opinion about my story, right? Because I think we all get handed a bucket of poop. And then it's up to us whether we can turn it into fertilizer or not, or say, man, all I got was a bucket of poop when I came here. And so to the one energy, the suffering in this dream is not what we identify as suffering. It's the deconstruction and reconstruction of molecules from one energy that is all of us, that is playing all of us. We're just giving our little taste of salt in there with our personalities. But yeah, hopefully I answered that.
Well, I think you said you weren't sure where they were getting their positive energy from.
Yeah, that they never told me, but it's all about 0 point energy.
Hmm.
And 0 point energy, you need positive ions and negative ions.
Hmm.
And so we're a really easy source of it because we're so hollow and fragmented.
I also wonder if our brain or our training or our upbringing is designed to make hypnotize us into thinking we're not good enough. It's a universal theme.
It
I'm not good
is.
enough.
Yeah, it is. I believe the systems that are in place were designed a lot with archonic influence to obey the order, do, don't question, bam, bam, bam. Let me get you into this linear circuit where you think you're in a race against time when you're really an eternal being. So a lot of it, yes, is designed to give you a sense of identity in the things you're doing and not above what you're doing.
I noticed lately Jesus in Walmart, and only because the city I live, it's where you go to buy groceries. It's the only practical place within a distance. So there's the magazines. I noticed on two of them, suddenly Jesus is on the magazine covers front and center in mainstream culture. Why do you think people gravitate towards strong spiritual figures during times of uncertainty? And how do we avoid giving our power away to any external authority, whether it's a religious or a political figure?
Great question. I think it's because people need to see a clear mirror. We don't have a lot of clean mirrors around here to see themselves, to reflect, because that's a lot of what is interfacing in this reality is about. It's about sending a signal, reflecting on it, reconfiguring data. And so Jesus is that perfect image to reflect with and reflect upon within our inner state of consciousness to see ourselves clearly when the world wants us to be something else or says we're this or says we're that. I can create that mirror in myself to see myself. And that's what the divine blueprint is for, is to have that whole image at the ready. Now, the whole image at the ready by reconnecting to my divine blueprint and claiming, hey, that's what I am. This is my identity. It's going to reveal a lot of things that are labeling you and want to take that identity from you. So what can I do to have that taken is practice. What does it feel like to know myself as a sovereign being and speak that into my nervous system? And one other thing I teach my clients is how to uninstall and reinstall new programs simply by speaking to the body. I uninstall fear, worry, stress, anxiety through the Christ or the heart field. Because they have a sun. Everybody has a sun in their center. How awesome is that? That can organize all their neurotransmission. And so how you keep out of the labeling is send your neurotransmission to that heart space and acknowledge it. And don't store it for later because that's a brain to body signal. It's not a brain to heart to body. So now I'm wired over here.
What about, I get the part about you're seeing a mirror reflection of yourself or how you would like to be. It's good to have a role model, a mentor or something, Jesus. How do you, though, not get sucked into the institutional aspects of it, where now, to me, you're giving your power away to somebody else instead of looking in the mirror, you're having somebody else look in the mirror for you. The balance between that, not getting carried away with getting in trouble with that.
Yeah, definitely. Nobody should be telling you who God is for you. They should be giving you the messages and allowing you to explore that spirit given to you within you. For me, religion, I'm not waiting for anything because Christ already gave me that spirit. I don't have to wait. So I'm going to activate that spirit because I am the body of the Christ. So that means I get to embody the Christ. Now, to me, it's common sense. There's a lot of common sense going on here that's missed by religion. And so he was showing me how to overcome myself, how to unify into non-duality. And how I love listening, and I love going to a church here and there and just listening and feeling. And people have to know that guilt, shame, and all these lower emotions would not come from Creator. That is coming from something else inside these men that they have not addressed.
talked about the Archons and whatever forces being able to take over someone else's body, step in.
Mhm.
Is it possible that they did that with some of the religious and definitely the political figures, to which then they could manipulate you um, somehow? Like a false figure, so to speak.
Absolutely. I would definitely invite people to look into the stories of the Pittsburgh Archdiocese, and you see the action of the archons, the entities at work, and what happens with children and what other
Mm-hmm.
things. And they're hiding the real meat of it. And that's why the Knight Templars were taken out, because they purified and they found a way to the Christ without having to go through the church. And so there's a lot of that hidden, the metaphysical, whatever you want to call it. But
Now I'm going to tangent here into conspiracy a little bit. Get them. I'm just throwing out ideas here, so don't think it's not like I believe them or not. Thoughts coming in my brain as we're speaking.
sure.
So I'm imagining I'm the archons, and we say we can inhabit other people's body. So be it a political figure or a religious, I could do that to keep the fear going.
Yes, they can project their consciousness as long as you have the right signal for them to latch onto.
You're looking for a figure to help you, to guide you, and you're like, oh, I'll pretend to be that figure. They'll come to me, and then I'll give them the wrong directions.
Yep, I'll just fill them with guilt, shame, and fear if they don't
Yeah,
do what I want them to do. So the
yeah.
very first feeling of guilt or words of guilt, I already know what I'm dealing with. It doesn't matter what you call yourself, and we see it in society today. Doesn't matter what school you went to, what degrees you have, how professional you are corruptible. And it goes to the highest orders of the church. And if I'm an archon, yeah, I'm going to want to be in those positions because I'm guiding masses of people into guilt and shame. And as soon as I feel guilt and shame, whether it's from the government, religion, someone I love, I already know it's an attack on my identity. That
So if
you are
you're
not allowed to deposit that in my system because I'm a sovereign being.
so if you're a top level official, or you're young and you're aspiring to be a top level politician or religious figure, maybe you should take listen to some of Steve's tips on how to protect yourself.
And yeah, I appreciate that. And let's go back to the pandemic. Okay. I need to take this, and I'm a bad person if I don't, because I'm going to KIA my grandma. And so that's archonic.
You're
Okay.
speaking of the vaccine?
I'm speaking of the vaccines. Yeah. So when you're sold something with guilt and shame, that's your red flag right there. You know where it's coming from. Products don't need to sell you with guilt and shame.
That's a logical process. That's common sense and rational thinking.
Yep. You don't need to sell me a good product with guilt and shame. You know what I mean? You don't need to talk me into it. I like to be so free that I can discern the information and come to the signal of truth myself or not. Give me the info, but you're not allowed to modulate me into something.
Right. So you've lived literally between both worlds, physical and spiritual, from everything you experienced. You might have mentioned it already, but what do you believe about why we are here?
I believe we're here to have a sacred experience and evolve and experience ourselves in a way we couldn't without these bodies and interacting as separate consciousnesses. And now we're returning. So the whole point was to have the experience, to log in and to just have it. And it's really about love and understanding how everything is sacred, not just on our earth, not just in our emotions, but in the entire universe. And what a beautiful part of creator that we are, to just even come to have this experience of being able to feel or smell or feel the sun on my face. And so I think that's going to be interpreted by how someone close is as close as someone can be to that. But for me, the purpose of life is to love people until they remember who they are in the way Christ loved me. And I didn't never went to church, never had religion. Parents never brought me. There were no pictures in the house. And so I understood Jesus, the man, was showing me how to do something. And I followed that.
From a logical point of view, I've had this thought one time that, again, not that I believe this or disbelieve it, but you know what I mean? We're all one.
Yeah.
What if we came here because as all one, I can't love myself. It's no fun. I'm lonely.
Yeah, there's no sense of self. Yeah.
I'm lonely. There's nobody here. So I'll fragment myself into a bunch of different people. I'll step into one of them and then I'll experience being loved and giving love. And I can do that by myself.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I'm going to create this little duality so I can interact. Because without duality, what am I interacting with? You know?
So tell listeners about what you do for work, your practice, and where they can go to learn more and book a session with you.
Sure. What I do for work is I do quantum healing, 0-point healing in particular. I do in-person sessions and group sessions, and I do Zoom. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world. We're able to connect through the quantum field. If you want to learn more, you can go to my website at trinityquantumhealth.com. I also have, tons of other resources there, videos and stuff that people can learn more.
It'll be in the show notes. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to add or talk about?
I would just, I'd like to add that people should consistently practice in that window of waking up, reminding their body and their nervous system of that they're a sovereign being. More they do that, the more they're going to come back online, and the more they're going to be able to recognize what's trying to take that from them. I'd say the only thing we really didn't talk about was probably, some of the extraterrestrial experiences I had.
No, go for it. I cut you short at the beginning because I'd wanted to get to the Archons and
Sure.
the interdimensional beings and all this stuff we've been speaking of. Finish your story where you left off at the beginning on your journey.
Yeah, so I'm having all these projections. I'm thinking I'm haunted because I'm seeing silhouettes of figures that are human shaped walking around me. So it gets worse and worse. And I notice some are smoky and some are light and some are dark. And they begin speaking to me and they're telling me, I'm no good. You're never going to be anything. You're never going to do anything with your life. And I can't shut it off. So I'm going to bed. And it was so bad that the side of my head would spasm. That's how much pressure I would get in my head from this.
This is after you came back from your NDE, or
no? That was at 4. This was in 2008 when the being spoke to me again, and somebody flicked the light switch on, and now I could see into the quantum realm, and I was able to see all the projections that I was producing through me, fractals, if you will. And so they start speaking to me, and I'm like, go away, leave me alone. And they're telling me how crappy I am, and I'm never going to be anything. And then I went, wait a minute. That's how I used to talk to myself. And then I was like, bingo. And so right after that, here come the Archons, the Galactic Federation of Light. In the corner of my room, I can kind of see there's something happening in the corner. It's a little fuzzy, but I could feel the pressure wave on my body. And they're like, we're the Galactic Federation of Light. We're here to help you because you're going to help humanity in the evolution of its species. At this point, I don't know what's happening. I'm like, dude, you need to leave. I'm pretty sure you got the wrong guy. And so the one thing they left me that first visit was, you're a divine instrument, but you're out of tune. And then they left. And then I was like, damn, that makes sense. And so throughout the next few weeks, I'm having time loss experiences. I'm starting to experience telepathy. I'm starting to pick up people's pain. Like they'd walk into my job and I'd be like, oh, what was that? And they'd leave and it would go away. And I figured it out over time. And then there was this one really profound experience that still to this day, I can't explain what it felt like, but it was probably the biggest experience that I had. I'm driving home from work. This is when I'm trying to, mind you, I'm a father. I have a partner. I'm trying to stay sane. I don't have anyone to talk to about all this stuff going on. I try to talk to my partner and she's not really open about it. So now I'm on my own. So I'm beating myself up. I'm driving home, all the failures I had, and why can't I be this and this? That's when a voice comes in. And now, because of the distortions I was experiencing, at first I was like, leave me alone. But this voice starts telling me how beautiful I am and all these people that loved me and all these things that I did. And I was like, well, that's different. And it was very steady. It wasn't, here and there like some of the other things I was experiencing. So I was like, who are you? And I'm driving at this moment. And the voice answers and says, I am. Okay, I am who? That was my first response. I am who? The voice says, I am. And then I just said, I heard you the first and second time. I am who? And then the voice said, I am. And that was it. Something happened to me, and every single memory that I ever had in my life and every emotion came rushing out of me at the same time, but separately. I could feel them separately, but it was happening simultaneously. Instant, hardest I ever cried in my life. I couldn't stop it. I just started crying and crying. I pulled the car over. And after like 15 minutes, I'm like, what the heck was that? But I felt entirely different. It was like something came in and unified me in an instant. And these two things came together and became one. And that was my burning glove compartment experience. The burning bush. Well, it was my glove compartment. And that's all I can say. And I went home and I looked up, what does I am mean? Because I was never religious. So I had to go look up the extraterrestrial stuff. I had to go look up I am. I had to go look up some visions that I was having to figure out this might be coming from God. And then I started going to churches and tried to talk to them about it. Didn't matter what denomination it was. They all looked at me like I was crazy.
What's interesting about that is that presupposes you went and looked it up. I am. I was brought up Catholic, so I know what you mean. That's in our Bible or it's on the wall at church. That means that someone else back in time had the same experience as you, tried to teach people about it. I think the trouble starts when then you get into these schools, these institutions, good intentions. I have a question. Why do you suppose that God or the universe just doesn't make it happen to everybody like it happened to you, so we wouldn't even have to do a podcast?
I'm not so sure it wasn't me. I'm not so sure it wasn't me doing it to me with some kind of cheat code. I don't know, to be honest with you.
What's cheat code?
Up, down, left, right, extra power up. I don't know. You're playing video games.
Up, an down, accident, left, right. A bug.
Cheat code. Yeah, maybe I gave myself a cheat code. Maybe I was supposed to. I mean, I know I was supposed to awaken in this time period, put it that way. That I was supposed to come here.
It's an accident. It's a bug.
I don't think it's an accident. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to awaken. There is no accident with the divine.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
And so why did God do it to me and not to everybody? Mm-hmm. I don't know, maybe that would erase us being here. Who knows?
Well, that's logically one of my sticky points with religion is, don't trust anybody about anything. Question it, see it for yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not believing or disbelieving God when I say this, but I have to wonder, why does God make it so difficult if you're, like speaking as a Christian?
I think God would ask you why you make it so difficult.
Well, because they want me to go to church when I'm a kid. I don't have a choice,
I mean, humans in general, that would be the answer. Why do you guys make it so difficult? Because we do.
Yeah. Oh, it comes back to we answered this question. Perhaps, as you mentioned, Pittsburgh, the leaders are getting infected.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah. I mean, and it's exactly what you say. It's almost like an infection that spreads. And if I am not transmuting and alchemizing my lower data, then I'm going to have an issue. Now, that lower data, my lower experiences, my opinions, my trauma needs to go into this field, whether I call it the Christ or anything else.
Okay, so what if they infected the leaders and then the leaders manipulated? I was a Catholic schoolboy. I had all the textbooks and passed all the exams, manipulated me to the point I couldn't think for myself, so I couldn't have your experience
Yeah,
because I was so closed and so locked in on what they were teaching me. I wasn't open to it.
absolutely. And I see that with clients I've worked with who were in boarding schools and they were abused by the priest and the people. And I'm like, and somehow still they came to love God and know that God was not that. And I admire that. And I believe, yeah, a lot of it is those archonic systems set in place to put you on a
The
certain
people
direction.
who haven't had the trauma experience, like a soldier, or as you're speaking of those people, people who haven't experienced that kind of PST, post-traumatic stress, whatever. If you haven't experienced, you don't understand how hard it is
Yeah, it's
to
a
move
large
forward.
charge that's hard to move.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a really large emotional charge that's stuck in your system. And it needs a really large charge to overcome it.
That's a good way of putting it.
And so when I look at it in terms, one goes with the other. I know anything I'm going through now that I can overcome if I cultivate a larger charge. It's going to zero that other charge out and I'm going to be reunified again. And so when I take my opinion out of my experiences, whether it was my childhood trauma from my mom or getting run over or whatever it may be that I experienced, I know I can overcome it if I rub my feet on the carpet just a little bit. And that is my mind-heart connection. Mind, heart, mind, heart. I'm going to cultivate something. Then I'm going to send it through my system. So the key is love and truth. I'm going to cultivate love, and then I'm going to deliver truth to my system. I'm going to cultivate love, deliver truth. However, we're not taught these systems. We're not taught we're beings of energy in a salt and potassium battery, basically, interfacing with reality.
We're sticking with the trauma and the abuse. A lot of people are abused. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the Pittsburgh diocese. Are you saying by love and truth and clarity, forgiveness, or
I would say love and forgiveness, but you don't have to forgive them.
right?
You need to forgive that wounded part of yourself.
Not your fault.
Yeah,
That you were
it's that
there.
little child in you. And what works best is to imagine it's a stranger child that just fell outside in the street. You're going to give them love. You're going to give them forgiveness. Then you're going to probably give them firm parameters so they don't go on the street again, right?
Right. That
Love
can't
and
happen
truth.
again. Like,
Yeah,
don't be a
love and
victim.
truth.
Don't be a victim. Yeah.
And so wherever I attach the label to, not allowed to modulate my identity outside of my knowing of it.
Oh,
That's a sovereign
good
being.
point. Some people get attached to their disease, their illness, their abuse, being a victim. And that's you can't solve the problem if you label yourself.
And we're always projecting our emotions on others, and we think people need to feel sad with us or they don't love us and don't understand archonic system. I am not going to force someone else to be sad with me in order to understand something. If we can hold love while this person is sad and suffering, that's the greatest thing we can do for him. And that breaks down that archonic system where I'm trading pain.
Yeah, it would be like saying, I broke my arm, so I've got to break yours, and then we can talk about what it feels like. Help.
Yeah.
You can't help me if you break your arm too. I need your help, so trust me, my arm hurts. Yeah.
Why aren't you mad like I am? Not because I'm not going to allow you to modulate me outside of my identity. However, it doesn't stop me from loving you and being there for you.
Yeah.
So that's the archonic system trading pain. Yeah. Like if an entity appears or if you're dealing with an entity, it's there to teach you and it works for you. However, when I'm in a position where I think everything is working against me, I'm not going to see that. But it's there to teach you what not to do. It's there to simply reflect something back to you that you don't like so that you move back into your body. Okay. So the entities that we create are what gets hijacked by the archons. As we're creating these many versions of ourselves that, comes from the emotional charge stored in the body, that's what they latch on to. So it's important to understand for your viewers that I was the biggest skeptic of all, that I still am a skeptic, that I need to feel things tangibly and experience them before I will buy it. Because I grew up normal most of my life and compartmentalized my 4-year-old experience and didn't talk about it until 2008 when things started happening. And so I still consider myself a healthy skeptic, and I think it's important for us to do that.
Steve, thanks so much for being on my show.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your story, your insights. And for those listening, the goal isn't to accept or reject any one viewpoint. It's to think clear, stay grounded, remember who you are. Fear clouds judgment, clarity liberates. Personally, I like to say question everything, ask better questions. If something in this conversation resonated with you, take a moment today to reflect on who you are, part of you who isn't afraid, who isn't reactive, because the world changes when you do. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye for now.
Let's get real.